It's a top day trade day. Our top traders of the moment are here. Knuckman, the chief market strategist at bullseyeoption.com, and Flynn, a Fox Business News Network contributor, here for our trader game. Round number one, guys, fly high. Flights from London to Sydney are expected to be just 2 hours in the next decade, and that's because the trip takes passengers into space. What currency do you think is about to take off, the dollar or the euro?
Well, the Australian dollar has been coiling here between 65 and 70, breakout targets that 70 level, 75, which is above the midpoint that we've seen over the last few years. So I'm positive on the commodity currency. It's been a lot higher, and I think commodities are going to be in a super cycle, as Phil and I talk about all the time. But I want to talk about that this flight from London to Australia is going to be 2 hours because they're going to go into space. Now, this is an illustration of innovation. Innovation has a depressing fact on inflation. So it lowers inflation as we continue to innovate. And that is probably a good sign for the dollar to finally go down and break that 100 level. And when that happens, it's going to be very positive for a lot of assets.
So let me get this straight. It's 2 hours from Heathrow to Australia, but it takes you 4 hours to get through security at Heathrow. I mean, come on, how's this going to work? I mean, but I think Alan's right. I think, listen, this is a taste of the future, and it's coming. This is the future that we were promised when we were kids, right? When I was growing up in the 60s, right? Oh, you're going to have space travel. And it's like, but it's going to happen, right? And Richard Branson, of course, is a guy that I believe has the capability to do this. These dreams are becoming a reality, and it's a very exciting future for people. But I can bet you it's not going to run on anything other than fossil fuels to make this happen.
Round number two, wheat. What? Farmers are said to be abandoning wheat crops due to drought. What's your plan to gain in the grains? I look at the wheat crop here. We talk about the Australian dollar, the euro. I actually think the Australian dollar is going to do a little bit better, mainly because of commodities, and commodities have been getting crushed right now. Despite the fact we have the tightest wheat stock in history, despite the fact that we have some of the tightest grain supplies, these prices have been getting crushed. And it's amazing. There seems to be a disconnect between, the current supplies, which are very, very tight, versus what's going on. I think a big part of it's been what's been happening in the U.S. dollar. The dollar has shown strong strength here. It's been hurting commodity prices. And I think right now this washout in grains is getting way overdone. So it's time to start looking at the grain complex.
But what's really interesting here is in Italy. Italy is having a crisis, a pasta crisis. The price of pasta went up 18% in April and 17% in March. So, you're having a pasta crisis there, and durum wheat is down 30%. So there is a real disconnect, as we all know, that the commodity price doesn't always translate into what happens and what we pay.
Round number three, earnings recession session. This earnings season has some people concerned about a recession. What's your earnings roundup?
First off, recession is just a word that doesn't translate into the stock market having to go down. Actually, who's done the best in the last year? Who's the big winner? It's corporations, because they have pricing power and they have what we call now greedflation. I just talked about what's happening with pasta in Italy, but we've seen it happen in America on a lot of things. Revenues are increasing, even though we've had an earnings per share decline. So corporations are doing extremely, extremely well. Look at what's happened to eggs. Eggs went up to $7, $8 a dozen. Now they're back down to $1. So the markets eventually correct themselves. And in that instance, the cure for high egg prices was higher egg prices, because now we've got more chickens that have more eggs.
And a lot of companies are still doing very, very well, but you have to look at the fact that we've seen an earning per share decline, 2 quarters in a row. And that's disturbing because we haven't seen it for years. It probably means that the Fed has probably done enough when it comes to raising interest rates. Stop the Fed.
On the bonus round question for today, the iconic Oscar Mayer Wienermobile is getting a new name. Will it be the Beef Mobile, the Frank Mobile, or the Delicious Dog Mobile?
I would say the Frank Mobile sounds pretty cool. I'd go with the Frank Mobile.
Yeah, you're setting me up to say something improper on TV. I'm not falling for this. I'm going to just say Frankmobile.
Frankmobile is the correct answer. Great job, guys. We will be right back with the final trade of the day.
Go to businessfirstam.com for where to see our show on TV.